Hi, I'm Gnarly. Welcome to the Narleeverse. I don't really know how my face looks right now. Looks alright. Bags under my eyes don't look too bad. My face doesn't look too... I always get really self-conscious when I don't, put a lot of makeup on, but sometimes I look better without makeup. Never really wore very much makeup when I was younger. Not until recently did I become interested. So, I want to welcome you to my channel. I haven't really done a short about me video, but I want to state real quick. I gotta stop saying that because I never state anything quickly. So a couple things about me. I'm a military brat, and both my parents were in the military. They were in the Navy. My mother was a yeoman and in hospital corpsman school, and I'll have to ask her a few more things about that. I'll be doing a video for my mother's birthday coming up shortly anyway. Probably add in a couple things about that. My father was in the submarine service. He worked on a submarine and traveled the world. He went to Brazil, Ireland, I think a couple other places. But my father grew up in Florida, and my mother grew up as a child, my mother grew up in upstate New York, and I grew up in Massachusetts, but my mother lived in Massachusetts as an adult. So, my mother's side of the family is from New England, and my father's side of the family is from Florida. I was born October 9th. I love October, I love the autumn. To just get an idea of two influences in my life, my mother and my father. My father's always been a very positive, happy, funny person, just very outgoing. Both my parents are into sci-fi. Both my parents love Star Trek. My mother loves Voyager. My father doesn't really like Voyager. He likes original Star Trek. I think Star Trek was really good for society, like a lot of science fiction is. I love science fiction, and I hate this chair. And so yeah, that's okay for a short about me video, right? I'm a military brat, born in October, New England, Florida. My parents were in the Navy. My father's submarine. My mother was a yeoman and in for medical hospital corpsman or whatever it was. Basically, my mom worked at a desk. But both my parents were in the military. What's going on here? My grandmother was a head nurse, and my father is an artist. He deals in realism. He can draw realistic things very well. My Uncle Rock is a cartoonist. He's an artist, but he does cartooning better than... It's not what he does for work. So my Florida family, a lot of them have worked for Disney or still sort of work for Disney or work for transportation involving Disney. And my mother has been on disability as long as I've known her for her bipolar disorder, but my mother does not work for as long as I can remember. My mother is disabled for bipolar and OCD and PTSD, and that's not releasing too much information because there's a whole lot more that I've decided I'm not going to talk about that's very personal to her, but it is very relevant to my story, but I've decided to keep that. But that's very tame information, and there's a lot of stuff I won't be getting into about my mother that I would love to, but that is fine. So, my mother's always been a very clean person. She loves animals. She's always been a kind person, but she's not as outgoing as my father. She hates leaving the house. It's very hard for her to leave the house. She has a lot of anxiety, and my mother's just negative all the time, and she's one of those women that just walk around. I catch myself doing it sometimes, and it freaks me out. My mother is one of those people that just complains about everything, and there's nothing that will ever satisfy her. My mother's also very controlling, and that's where I learned a lot of my controlling behavior from. I am 30 years old. I am not how I act. And I was ridiculous in my teenage years and ridiculous in my 20s. And I've only now started to feel like I've become less ridiculous. I can't even say I'm not ridiculous, but I am working on a lot of things for myself emotionally and mentally. My father has ADHD, and my father grew up with autism. Uh, he kind of my father went one way, my mother went another. My mother sought help and stayed with professionals and got on disability and never got off of it. And my father did not want any help, and he works very hard. And I'm somewhere in between. But I have my own 2-bedroom apartment, townhouse. I'm the head of household of my apartment. I have my driver's license for the first time. I've had it for 3 years with no car accidents or incidences as of yet. I just recently brought down my car to my father so that he could fix it. So if anybody's wondering where my car is, I dropped it off in Florida. I made it 3 years, and I'm still considered a new driver, so taking a little time off from driving I felt like was good. Hopefully I can make it, 4 or 6 years before you're not considered a new driver anymore. So yeah, I was born in the autumn. I'm a military brat. There's mental illness on both sides of my family, but there's also a lot of artistic creativity. Also, on my mother's side of the family, I discussed the artists on my father's side of the family, but on my mother's side of the family, my grandfather and I believe 2 of my uncles on my mother's side were also artists. My grandfather and my uncle were painters, and as it turns out, I like to paint. I never really painted when I was younger, but this video is getting too long. It's starting to give me anxiety. So these are just some basic things about me. My parents have always been into science fiction. They love Star Trek. My father loves Doctor Who. My mother is not very much into anything else other than Star Trek and the Sci-Fi Channel. I know she likes the Alien trilogy. I think it's not a trilogy anymore. There's like more movies of it now. My mother likes westerns too. There's other stuff she likes, but she's not into like Star Wars or Doctor Who. She really sticks to her Star Trek as far as that goes. My father loves Star Trek. My father likes Star Wars. My father likes Doctor Who. And my uncle's pretty cool too. My uncle is a hard worker also in Florida. He's a lot more serious than my father, but people don't think he's funny. I think he's a really funny guy. I think my uncle is a really funny guy, and people keep saying that he's very serious, but he is. He's hardworking and serious, but he's also really funny. This video's, again, getting too long. It's annoying the hell out of me. So this is just like a surface discussion of my life, you know. I have family up north, family down south. We're all pretty physically fit, but we're all pretty strange and mental and creative, and there's a lot of artists in my family, a lot of people who served in the military. My grandfather as well, on my mother's side, was a Freemason. I believe he served in the military. So I hope you guys enjoyed listening to this. Thank you for listening, and I hope you enjoyed this. I hope this was a little bit of insight, and yeah. Oh yeah, I have never gone to a public high school in my life. I was kicked out of public schools in the entire county where I was growing up in Massachusetts in 2nd grade. And from 2nd grade on, I was in hospital-like facility schools or a children's mental hospital. So I spent a large portion of my childhood and teenage years in and out of mental institutions and facilities and growing up in them. And the schools that they had were like just like the hospitals. They were like lockdown facilities. So I have never had a prom. I have never been to conventional school. I have attended college before, but I have never officially enrolled and finished anything. So I've attended college before, but I've never finished anything. And I did not complete high school. Don't ask me how I attended college without completing high school, because I didn't actually really attend. I didn't really attend. I just sat in a lot of classes through ways. But my childhood, I did not have a prom. I'm not like, oh boo-hoo, I didn't have a prom. Like some days, like I think about it, I'm like, damn, I got cheated. I feel some kind of way about this. But I'm not really like boo-hoo about it. It's like, I think I have a unique perspective. Sometimes when I think about it, I didn't go to like summer camps. I didn't, go to all these proms and have the sugar-coated illusion. My high school experience was behind chicken wire metal fencing line, like that was laid over the windows, because the crazy kids that were all us crazy kids that were locked up in these facilities, well, we would punch the windows. I was gonna say I didn't, but I did, just because somebody, like, it was actually a staff member too that was like, yeah, go ahead and hit it. And I did. I hit that. We called it chicken wire, but it was like this rigid, like, weaved metal, like, it was like weaved fencing. It was really thick, with this strange metal like net that they lined over it. And if you punched it, it would like skin your knuckles. So we saw that a lot. And I didn't really hit those things after that one time. That really hurt. A lot of skin came off my hand. So they weren't all bad. Like, a lot of these programs were just, they drugged us a lot, and a lot of bad things happened to some of the kids. I'd fall asleep like listening to girls cry in the middle of the night because some staff members were not good people. But they weren't all like that. Some of them had some good people in them. I had good experiences. I went to a couple group homes where I had horse riding training. I've received, I don't even know where it is or if it even counts, because it was like a special ed class. Actually, no, these were special ed children, but this was an actual horse riding class that was paid for by the state. This group home brought us there, and I got second place, like this little blue ribbon for riding a horse through his obstacle and back to the barn several times in some kind of like play race they put us on, these horses. And I almost didn't get that blue ribbon because I went off the trail and decided to take off, and I got in trouble. And then I found the path back to everybody, and I'm like, well, why would I want to walk behind all these horses with my horse? We're going so slow. So I just took off one path with the horse, and I almost got in trouble. But I handled that shit well. This video is starting to turn into something I didn't intend it to again. So that's kind of a surface thing, how I grew up. And we'll get into other things later. I'm getting sick of holding this here. But yeah, I've never been to a public high school. I did not have conventional education. Everything I've learned, I either taught myself through going to libraries, or it was what little that those facilities did give us, or influences, environment, or parents, family, or friends. So I also really, really, really like documentaries, so that helps. I'm not bored at all by documentaries. Like, it's got to be a really boring documentary to bore me. People bore me. People tend to bore me. I hope these can turn into a series, but welcome to my channel. I don't even know what this is, but I do, because I know what I'm doing. Have a good night. Bye.